everybody, and welcome back to episode 19 of Surrounded by Bourbon with me, Phil Crawford, aka Causeway Whiskey. And today we are back in Scotland as we cycle through our Irish, Scotch and American trinity of whiskies. This week we are looking at Oban 14-year-old. So Oban is one of the Diageo classic malts. And really in Scotland, Diageo reigns supreme when it comes to the total number of malt distilleries that they own. So they have 30 malt distilleries out of the 147 operational malt distilleries in Scotland. So yeah, a little bit greedy there, Diageo, I think. Now Oban itself sits on the west coast of Scotland, just overlooking the Isle of Mull. And it is known as a Highland distillery. So in case you don't know, that Scotland has a few regions of distilleries. We have the Highlands, we have Speyside, we have the Islands, we have Islay, and we have the Lowlands, and also Campbelltown. Now, amongst whisky enthusiasts, I think now that the idea of Scottish regionality when it comes to distilleries is potentially on the wane a little bit. Mainly because of modern distillation techniques. Anybody anywhere can kind of distill the style of whiskey that they wish. So you know, you can, in Speyside, you could make a very heavily peated whiskey, the same as a lowland distillery could, that could rival anything that Islay puts out as well. And you know, even some of the Islay distilleries that are non-peated could potentially put out something that may kind of taste a little bit like a Speysider. Anyway, that is for others to argue over. For me, I don't really care as long as the whiskey tastes good. Anyway, production-wise for Diageo, Oban comes in 5th place in its malt distilleries. It's behind the Singleton, behind Talisker, behind Cardew and Lagavulin. And it is a very small distillery. It only has 2 stills, it has 4 washbacks, and at the minute it has a total output of 975,000 litres of alcohol per annum. And that is probably unlikely to grow because of where the distillery is situated in the town of Oban. It basically doesn't have anywhere to expand to, so it's unlikely that there's going to be extra stills or washbacks put in the distillery. So I guess that's a bit of a problem for them. But anyway, fermentation wise, Oban has, by industry standards, actually quite a long fermentation time, 119 hours. And the new make from Oban is distinctly fruity, so it'll be interesting to see whether that comes through in the nosing and the palate of this particular release. Now, like most of Diageo's malt distilleries, Oban is no different in that most of its production goes into malt that is destined for blends. However, there is still enough left over for a small core range. So the entry level is the Oban Little Bay, which is a no age statement release. Then we have this, which is the 14-year-old. We have also the Distiller's edition of Oban, which is essentially the 14-year-old, but then it is further matured in ex-Fino sherry casks. And the US also gets an exclusive 18-year-old release, which costs around $165. So, the thing about Diageo, let's have a little word about Diageo. They are a massive player in the world of global spirits, be it whiskey, tequila, whatever it is. But for many whiskey enthusiasts, Diageo are kind of like the antithesis of craft whiskey production. They are about volume, they're about profit, and so many of the whiskies, well, they kind of feel as though they're a bit neutered, they're a bit bland, they're low proof, they are chill filtered, they have caramel colouring added. And in other videos I will address why these things are seen as bad things to a whiskey enthusiast. So The entire range of Oban is bottled at 43% proof, or 43% ABV, sorry, 86 proof. There is definitely colouring added to this, and it is definitely chill filtered to make sure that it does not go hazy whenever you add water. So yeah, let's get into a bit about the tasting notes. Before I do, I'll tell you how much this costs over here and what the prices cost back home in the UK and Ireland as well. So this is available in Total Wine for $77 a bottle, which works out about £57.50 or €65.50. However, I did a bit of research today and I checked out the UK prices and I was kind of aghast. On the Whisky Exchange, this is £77.25, and on Master of Malt, it was £75, which seems a little spicy if I am going to be honest. So mash bill, this is 100% single malt. Maturation wise, this is fully matured in refill bourbon casks, and like I said, 43% ABV, 86 proof. So let's get into the nose and the palate and let's see how this fares, shall we? So the thing in the nose is, right, so first off, a huge hit of orange marmalade, backed up by lots of malt. Kind of smells like the draff that you get, which is like the spent leftovers after the wash. Then we get nougat, there's lychee in there, there's crisp red apples, there's chopped almonds in there as well, there's a bit of light oak, also a slight bit of salinity, a little bit of saltiness, and there's also a hint of smokiness, which I reckon probably comes from the cask char of those ex-bourbon barrels, because I don't think there's any peat used in the production of Oban, but somebody could, you know, put me right on that if that is the case. So let's go on to the palate, shall we? So again, mouthfeel is pretty decent, just about medium bodied. There's a nice spicy arrival, definitely like ginger and black pepper. There's also tinned pineapple and candied orange peels. Going again. Toffee apples all day. There's nutmeg. There is a little bit of oak astringency, I will say. And again, that biscuity malt comes through. And again, the pepperiness kind of just goes the whole way through this. Finish wise, let's have another little sip. So just about medium in length. There's a note of heather honey at the end. The malt is still there. There is that tropical fruit again from like the pineapple and some baking spices. Yeah, it's not bad. One last sip before I give my score and my overall thoughts. So basing this on the American score, on the American price, not the American score, sorry, the American price. I'm kind of wavering between a 5 and a 6. I'm tempted to be good-natured today and give this a 6. So I'm not always grumpy. So yeah, okay, we'll go for a 6. I don't do half points in this channel, so I'll round it up. We're going for a 6. Overall thoughts then. I mean, it's a solid enough dram, if rather unspectacular. You know, like Diageo are known to be the purveyors of blandness, and I think there's enough fruitiness in this to just kind of keep you interested. Like the fruit and spice interaction, kind of enough to keep you interested. And so for the price of like $77, 57 quid, yeah, I think I'll stick with maybe a 6. What I would say is I reckon that this is a warm-up dram. It's the one that you would open your night with. I would definitely not have anything high proof and then come to this, because I think you'd be very disappointed after that. So I think this is definitely a palate opener. However, in the style of whiskey that this is, I do believe that there are better single malts here in the US that are available for less. And I would imagine in the UK and Ireland it is very much the case as well. So for example, Benromac 10-year-old, excellent 10-year-old, similar ABV, but I just think it gives more, to be honest. The classic laddie from Brook Laddie, which I think is available here for about $55. I know it's an Islay, but it is like a sweet Islay, it's unpeated. And even Campbelltown Loch from Springbank, which is available here in Total Wine for $70. And that will definitely give you a much better dram for the money. A lot going on there. As regards to UK prices, this is a hard pass. I definitely would not spend over £70 for this. There are just a vast array of options available to you in the UK and Ireland that are much better than this at that price, especially when you factor in independent bottlers as well, where you can get 14-year-old cask strength expressions for less than 50 quid. I'm thinking of the Signatory Vintage range, and there are many others out there. So anyway, there you go. That's my thoughts on Oban 14. I think it's a reasonable enough one to have on your shelf, but I still think there's better out there. And maybe on another day, this would have garnered a 5. I'm just being particularly generous today. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys, and until next time, sláinte.